Part 3, Propositions 21 to 25 of the Ethics by Spinoza. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Morgan Scorpion. The Ethics by Benedict de Spinoza. Translated by R.H.M. Elwes. Part 3. Propositions 21 to 25. Proposition 21. He who conceives that the object of his love is affected pleasurably or painfully, will himself be affected pleasurably or painfully, and the one or the other emotion will be greater or less in the lover, according as it is greater or less in the thing loved. Proof. The images of things, as we showed in Part 3, Proposition 19, which postulate the existence of the object of love, help the mind's endeavour to conceive the said object. But pleasure postulates the existence of something feeling pleasure, so much the more in proportion as the emotion of pleasure is greater, for it is, Part 3, Proposition 11, note, a transition to a greater perfection. Therefore the image of pleasure in the object of love helps the mental endeavour of the lover, that is, it affects the lover pleasurably, and so much the more, in proportion as this emotion may have been greater in the object of love. This was our first point. Further, in so far as a thing is affected with pain, it is to that extent destroyed, the extent being in proportion to the amount of pain. Part 3, Proposition 11. Note, therefore, he who conceives that the object of his love is affected painfully, will himself be affected painfully, in proportion as the said emotion is greater or less in the object of love. Quod erat demonstrandum. Proposition 22. If we conceive that anything pleasurably affects some object of our love, we shall be affected with love towards that thing. Contrariwise, if we conceive that it affects an object of our love painfully, we shall be affected with hatred towards it. Proof. He who affects pleasurably or painfully the object of our love, affects us also pleasurably or painfully. That is, if we conceive the love object as affected with the said pleasure or pain. Part 3, Proposition 21. But this pleasure or pain is postulated to come to us accompanied by the idea of an external cause. Therefore, Part 3, Proposition 13. If we conceive that anyone affects an object of our love pleasurably or painfully, we shall be affected with love or hatred towards him. Quod erat demonstrandum. Note, Proposition 21 explains to us the nature of pity, which we may define as pain arising from another's hurt. What term we can use for pleasure arising from another's gain, I know not. We will call the love towards him who confers a benefit on another, approval, and the hatred towards him who injures another we will call indignation. We must further remark that we not only feel pity for a thing which we have loved, as shown in Part 3, Proposition 21, but also for a thing which we have hitherto regarded without emotion, provided that we deem that it resembles ourselves, as I will show presently. Thus we bestow approval on one who has benefited anything resembling ourselves, and contrariwise are indignant with him who has done it an injury. Proposition 23. He who conceives that an object of his hatred is painfully affected, will feel pleasure. Contrariwise, if he thinks that the said object is pleasurably affected, he will feel pain. Each of these emotions will be greater or less according as its contrary is greater or less in the object of hatred. Proof. In so far as the object of hatred is painfully affected, it is destroyed, to an extent proportioned to the strength of the pain. Part 3, Proposition 11. Note, therefore he. Part 3, Proposition 20. Who conceives that some object of his hatred is painfully affected, will feel pleasure. to an extent proportioned to the amount of pain he conceives in the object of his hatred. This was our first point. Again, pleasure postulates the existence of the pleasurably affected thing. III. Prop. 11. Note. In proportion as the pleasure is greater or less. If any one imagines that an object of his hatred is pleasurably affected, this conception, III. Prop. 8, will hinder his own endeavour to persist. In other words, III. Prop. 11, note, he who hates will be painfully affected. Quod erat demonstrandum. Note. This pleasure can scarcely be felt unalloyed and without any mental conflict, for, as I am about to show in Prop. 27, in so far as a man conceives that something similar to himself is affected by pain, he will himself be affected in like manner, and he will have the contrary emotion in contrary circumstances. But here we are regarding hatred only. Prop. 24. If we conceive that any one pleasurably affects an object of our hate, we shall feel hatred towards him also. If we conceive that he painfully affects that said object, we shall feel love towards him. Proof. This proposition is proved in the same way as 322, which see. Note. These and similar emotions of hatred are attributable to envy, which accordingly is nothing else but hatred, in so far as it is regarded as disposing a man to rejoice in another's hurt, and to grieve at another's advantage. Prop. 25. We endeavour to affirm, concerning ourselves and concerning what we love, everything that we can conceive to affect pleasurably ourselves or the loved object. Contrariwise, we endeavour to negative everything which we conceive to affect painfully ourselves or the loved object. Proof. That which we conceive to affect an object of our love pleasurably or painfully, affects us also pleasurably or painfully. III. Prop. 21. But the mind, III. Prop. 12, endeavours, as far as possible, to conceive those things which affect us pleasurably, in other words, II. Prop. 17, and Corollary, it endeavours to regard them as present, and contrariwise, III. Prop. 13, it endeavours to exclude the existence of such things as affect us painfully. Therefore, we endeavour to affirm concerning ourselves, and concerning the loved object, whatever we conceive to affect ourselves, or the love object pleasurably. Quod erat demonstrandum. End of Part 3, Propositions 21 to 25.